when they told Allison the subject today, bondage or liberty, she sent me that song and I said, I think this talks about that bondage to the world and a bondage to not seeing past the clouds, right? The sun's always there, but we live in the shadow. We can't see the magnificence that's just the other side of our lens. The other side of the word that someone else said, or the situation that we might find ourselves in at any moment. This weekend, I think, is incredibly special because it is, of course, the 4th of July weekend. In 1776, a group of people got together, so frustrated with the way that the world was working, so unhappy with the circumstances of their life, that they literally put pen to paper to say no more. No more. I will live, breathe, move, have my being in a different way. What's most remarkable about the Declaration of Independence to me is how innately and transformatively spiritual the beginning and the end of the document are. And we know some of it, but I want to read the actual opening paragraph to you in case you've forgotten. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them to another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare their causes which impel them to this separation. That's all one sentence. My English teacher here is just freaking out. Right? But listen to it. They should state the causes that impel them to separation. To stand on that bridge and to state their grounds. To say, I will not tolerate this one more second. And this is why. And it's done from a place of understanding that their God, their nature's God, the one God, that kernel of what we stand on in New Thought. That there is no separation between God and nature. That they're all one. It would be another 100 years before the Transcendentalists wrote their pieces, which impelled the New Thought movement, and is what we stand on here. To understand that when I see a tree, when I see a waterfall, when I see the universe, and when I see your face, I am seeing the divine. And that divine cannot be denied. That truth of who you are and what you are entitled to cannot be subjugated, cannot be chained, and cannot be imprisoned unless you allow it. Hear that. You can't be put in prison unless you allow it. You cannot be chained unless you agree. We go on to state the words we all know. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To ensure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. They spiritually understood and knew and wrote it and claimed it for the whole world to hear. That unless you consent, you cannot be governed by someone else. Unless you consent, you cannot be taken. Those are the words written on the Declaration of Independence. And yet, we know that the men who wrote those words fell far short of their lofty ideals. As they were penning those words, as they were writing them down, boatloads of human beings were arriving on our shores chained and shackled. The women who sat with them were considered property. And it wasn't until just 100 years ago, some 150 years after these words were penned, that women even got the right to vote in this country. But that doesn't diminish the truth of the physical circumstances, does not diminish the lofty goals for which they were striving. How many of us fall short every day in what... Okay, I'll speak for me. I fall short every day.
Me too.
Every day. Well, there's two of us. In what I'm striving to be. But also every day, I feel like I come a little bit closer. Someday, Allison's saying, someday, I will get there. I will get there. We are all chained by our own thoughts and our own beliefs. My husband and I, JD and I, have been living that and wrestling with it this week in our own lives. Something going on that you don't need to know about. But it has just brought up to me that the more and the further we walk down this spiritual path, the more our stuff confronts us. The more we are faced with the opportunity to be bigger than we thought we could be. Oh, you thought you were all spiritual, huh? Let's see how you handle this one, Laura. Right? Let's see how you handle this one, Jen. And that's why I keep coming back to this path, to be reminded that, oh, I think it should be different. I think you should be different. It's usually how it works out. I think the politicians should be different. I think our governments should be different. Fill in the blank. My boss, my spouse, my child should be different than what it is. And when I chain myself to that belief and your behaviors or your actions, I am in prison. We break free from that when we find the keys that unlock every part of our hearts. Every part of our hearts. I can know this. It's a Gandhi statement. I'm going to paraphrase for you. You can never change the minds of anyone who can feel your contempt. Oh. You cannot change the mind of anyone who can feel your contempt. Right? Oh. Oh, I thought my argument was going to win. I thought my stellar logic was going to win. No. Your love will win. Your compassion and your understanding of another. So look at our political discourse right now. Look at what's going on in our country. And it's so easy to blame whatever the other side is. But do you have compassion or contempt in your heart for the other side? And if you want your ideas and your way to win, how do you think you're going to do that? By demonizing and vilifying and condemning other human beings. Wow, it's amazing. We come here together and we sing, "Love is my decision. It's up to me to give of my heart," except when it comes to Donald Trump. Except when it comes to Hillary Clinton. Except when it comes to Bernie Sanders. Or any fill in the blank. To ISIS. Can't give my love to ISIS, could I? Ooh. Can't give my love to this or that. Here's a story that I heard years ago. Amazing to me, a Buddhist teacher was imprisoned for his beliefs, and brought to a prison, locked up and kept captive every day, not knowing if he would be executed that day. When he was finally released, he was interviewed by people from his homeland, and they said, "Oh my, how did you endure that? How did you possibly go through that with every day? Your soul, your immortal soul was in danger." And he said, "The only time I was truly in danger was when I didn't hold compassion for my captors. The only time my immortal soul was ever truly in danger is when I harbored love in my heart, when I wouldn't give forgiveness." So, there are many things we should and can be outraged about. Outraged. But is that going to change the world? Is it? And is it going to change you? More importantly, is it going to change who you are? Is it going to open your heart, your life, your world? I've given you some high-minded quotes. My favorite low-minded quote is, "Life's a banquet and most SOBs are starving to death." Anti-Maine. Yeah, even Roma likes that one. There is a vast and amazing banquet laid out before us. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It is only our thoughts, our beliefs, and our thoughts of enmity that keep us from it. "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they protect me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my thoughts of enmity." My thoughts that someone or something is against me. When I can shift that thought, when I can shift that way of thinking, I truly can make peace. Make peace that passes all understanding. Right here. Because it's not dependent on circumstance. So your assignment this week, your assignment this lifetime, is to look at yourself. Is to be incredibly brave. That's why you're here in the Unity Church. To get the tools, to get the support, to build the community you need. If you didn't know it, that's why you're here. Okay? To get the tools you need to be the change in the world. To love wastefully, radically, extravagantly. To forgive all. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Whether Jesus himself said those words or the gospel writer put them in his mouth as he was being nailed to the cross, it matters not. For the words themselves are true. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Which one of us causes harm purposefully? In the moment we always think we're right or justified. Right? That painful walking it back. So hard. But you can do it. You can stand firm. This week, every day, look at what you're holding in your mind. Look at what you're holding in your heart. Just be willing to examine it and ask, is this serving me? Is this serving the planet? Doesn't mean you become a doormat. As I mentioned, JD and I are walking through this together. We're going to stand for our principles. We're going to stand for what we discern is right and what we know is best for our family. It may not be met like we want it to be met. It may cause commotion, turmoil, pain. but we know it's what we have to do. The loving response sometimes is to stand really firmly and say, this is the best course. You are free to choose whatever you want, but this is where I will stand, and I will not be moved. I will not be moved from love, from compassion, and from the path I know in my heart to be right. When we can do that and support each other in doing that every day, we choose liberty. We choose to be broken away from the chains and to get to the other side of the clouds. To see God's on the phone saying yes, thank you, and saying enough of being in bondage. Do we want to be free? Do we want to know peace that passes understanding? Well, the way is inside. The way is through our own thoughts and our own beliefs and our own unwillingness. Let's take that to a time of meditation.